Hello, everybody. Okay, let me see what this sounds like. Getting some dropped frames. Maybe I should reduce the output to 45. Okay. Okay. Output is now at 4,500 kilobits a second. Let's see if the drop frames reduces. Looks like it's going down. All right, solid. Awesome. Well, for our grand total of 0 viewers, although I acknowledge that you may end up watching this later. Well, you know what, actually? I've got a list of things to talk about when I start. Oh, hey, there's a viewer. Hi, Dominique. Why does my viewer count say 0? That's so strange. I'm going to refresh it. Let's see what happens. Still says 0 viewers. So weird. Obviously, we have viewers, so that's wrong. But maybe you're invisible. That's possible. How does the audio sound? Dumbass D. Does it sound good? Does it sound better? Do you remember what it sounds like? It might be that you're offline. If you look at Twitch and click on your icon in the top right corner, there's an offline switch, and I think that might make you invisible in the viewer count. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so you are my one viewer, which means you have to listen to everything that I say. I'm just kidding. You can ignore me if you want to. So what are my pre-stream rituals? I feel like I have to set those up so that I make sure that I get everything right when I start. And this is a sort of a slicker presentation. But let's look. I have a list. So I guess just to start, I wanted to review what this stream is all about and why I'm doing it. So, reason number one is that I love D&D, but reason number two, and I think the more important reason, is that not many people get to collaborate with other people creatively. A lot of people, especially dungeon masters, will work on their own. Sometimes they'll have a friend to bounce ideas off of once in a while. But this stream is really about providing a place for people to come and work on a D&D campaign. So you can consider this D&D campaign our D&D campaign and this community's D&D campaign, not just mine or my players. And hopefully that's an enjoyable experience for everybody. And hopefully we can learn a lot together about being creative together online in this format, which I've never experienced before. But we also, I have experience being creative in other environments, like on a whiteboard at a game development shop or a variety of other places. But I think this will be a pretty novel experience for people, hopefully, that tune in. Hopefully, it's something they can contribute ideas in and feel some ownership over. That isn't just me spouting, DM advice to people. Because if they want it, they can certainly have it. But I'm not here to tell people how to be a DM. I think there's a million and one ways to be a DM and to build a game and to prep a campaign. I'm just here to provide a space for people to work on something together, which hopefully is cool to people. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to be streaming for another 2 hours, and we will see what happens in that time. I think that is the only thing I wanted to talk about to start with. Obviously, I do have a new microphone set up, so If it sounds good, let me know. If it doesn't sound good, let me know. If there's anything I can improve about it. I got rid of my pop filter, which is that round thing in front of the microphone that I usually had. And that might make it so that you can hear pops a little bit more. But hopefully that's not terrible. I do find that I can get a richer sound by being closer to the microphone like this. But, if I had a pop filter, you just wouldn't be able to see my face. Maybe it'd be fun to see a talking pop filter, but I didn't do that. I also have a bunch of to-dos for this stream. I got to set up an overlay, set up a chat bot, set up donations and subs and all that kind of stuff. I'm here to learn about Twitch as much as I am here to collaborate with you guys. So you'll be seeing more of those typical things come online later. I spent, an hour today trying to debug why I couldn't set up animated overlays. And I was on the OBS Discord, which is the streaming software that I use. And I was on the Discord for the people that make the overlay. And it was like, we got a bug report filed. It was kind of crazy. So hopefully we will have something on that front soon. But let's get into the actual prep for tonight. So just to recap, the last session of this campaign was last Wednesday. So we had a post-mortem-ish session on Thursday, and today is the proper sort of prep for tomorrow night's session. And then, the following Thursday, I'll also come and deliver a recap. So the recap for Wednesday's session and what we did on Thursday is, as a whole, we have a party of adventurers, level 13, that are playing a campaign called Storm King's Thunder. Storm King's Thunder is a Wizards of the Coast officially published adventure, which I have taken and transmogrified and injected with points of player narrative. And they are on their way to defeat some fire giants. For context, the larger story is giants are roaming the countryside. They're trying to figure out why and stop it. That's really all you need to know. So they go to the Fire Giant Forge, which is a stronghold of fire giants. There's like a duke who's a big bad guy, and they end up crawling through the dungeon and defeating said bad guy. And then they have one little thread that they're still in the middle of tying up for this fire giant forge, which is called Iron Slag. And in Iron Slag, there were two things of significance. One is this big bad guy. His name is Duke Zalto. And they killed him. He was the progenitor of all the dastardly plans that were coming out of Iron Slag. So by dealing with him, they've essentially stopped anything that's going to happen. But there is an additional loose thread that they need to deal with, which is a delivery that is coming for Duke Zalto that has not yet been stopped. And when they got to the end of the fight with Duke Zalto, they made the decision, exhausted as they were, to stop along the side of the road and wait for this delivery so they could intercept it and make sure nothing bad happened when that delivery arrived at Iron Slag, or just to stop it in general. So they did so, and lo and behold, about a couple hours later and a few exhaustion checks later, they received or saw a cart coming down the road. The cart had 3 drow on it, 2 mages and a warrior. And there wasn't much else on the cart, but they decided to make themselves known. Unintentionally, actually, they were trying to sneak up on the cart, but guy rolled a natural 20 on his perception check, so they were found. And the moment that they could tell they were detected, they launched a fireball at the cart, and it was on. So the majority of last session was actually them just setting this up and entering combat, and then we paused halfway through that combat because time ran out in the session. So the last prep stream we did, which was on Thursday, we basically went through the stat blocks for these drow. Like I said, there were drow mages and some elite drow warriors. We went through the stat block, and we just made sure that we were actively using everything that these drow had to offer, all their abilities, and make sure we were really challenging the players. I like to be tactical about the enemies that I present in front of the players. Some people like to just put them in front and say it's going to be I hit you, you hit me, war of attrition back and forth. But I think that there's a lot to offer within the stat blocks that are provided in the monster manual. So I like to go through, look at the spells, and then, figure out, okay, who is in this fight and how can we bring a certain level of synergy between the different combatants such that we can present a really interesting challenge for the player. So that's what we did on Thursday. Today, we are going to have to talk about what happens when that combat is over. Where are they going to go? Hi, Vinny. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining the stream. I'm just recapping previous Thursday prep, which was, I think you would have liked it. It was a lot of combat prep. So we went through a bunch of stat blocks and talked about how we can make fights more interesting. So it was really mechanical, and we got really into the weeds on it. And that was really fun. If you're interested, I'm happy to recap how that went, because I have a whole set of notes that we all built together for what that fight's going to look like on tomorrow night. So today, when they're finished with that fight, the question is, what's going to happen? And we actually did deal with this a little bit on the previous prep stream. So last Tuesday, which was our first stream ever, we talked about how there is a perfect moment in time right now, purely based on where they are geographically, to inject a player narrative moment, or a little player narrative mini adventure in here. Oh God, Nerd Strong is here. This is a problem. Now I'm going to have to start doing push-ups. So if you guys don't know, for the few viewers that are here, Nerd Strong is the gym that I go to. I think I've pretty much told my friends all about the gym and how cool it is and why everybody should be going to a gym that makes you roll D20s while you're working out. But in case you don't know, Nerd Strong, during this time of quarantine, is offering online workouts over Twitch, over Zoom, and you get to roll D20s, you get to lift D&D manuals, and you get to do all kinds of other crazy shit. So if you need to work out, you should check them out. Where are the push-ups? Is this what Twitch streamers do? Is this like their viewers come in and make requests and they just have to do it? Like, am I kind of like a cam girl now, but for push? You know what? It's fine. I'll do it. I'll do a push-up. Let's see how it goes. Aha! You can't see me, so suck it. There, I did a push-up. I did it. No one can say that I don't do what my viewers request. So let's get back to the D&D, okay, guys? So where was I? Oh yeah. So previously, it's not a toxic environment. This is supposed to be a collaborative stream. I already talked about my ethos before. I'm going to go over my ethos again, just so no one thinks it's toxic. But this is a place where people can come and be collaborative. They can be creative. A lot of people have never been in a, collaborative, creative environment. A lot of times people are working on their own, and especially DMs, a lot of times they'll just be by themselves trying to figure out story and mechanics and all this other stuff. And in my experience as a game designer, I've had my best creative moments and my most inspiring moments when I'm with other people on a whiteboard, pushing ideas back and forth and feeling inspired. So the goal here is to create an environment where I'm not doing push-ups all the time, but I am facilitating all the people that are interested in doing that, and giving them a creative environment to sort of do it together. So hopefully that's cool. If it's not, it was a cool experiment anyway, but I have a good time. And I also realized I prep so much more efficiently when I'm streaming. So even if nobody watched or talked, this would still be a great ROI for me. So getting back to the D&D, like I said, this fight is about to happen, or it's mid-fight right now. They're going to have to decide what to do later, and I think this is the perfect time for a player narrative moment. So previously, on Tuesday's stream, we talked about how we have a character called Isawase, or now known as Kegsbane. He is a Goliath fighter / warlock. He's come a long way from when he was named Kegsbane, aka he's a drunk. That's where he started at level 1. from level 1 to level 13, his character progression has been one of maturity, of tactfulness, of tacticalness, and he's grown a lot. It is a great name. It's fantastic. Actually, the whole character setup for this guy is awesome. So, just to get into it a little bit, he has many names, or has had many names over time. One of them, I can't remember what his name was when he first started out as a Goliath in his tribe and left to go adventure. But at some point, he was exiled from his tribe because he got too old, essentially, and he then went to essentially be a mercenary for the Dwarven Kingdom of Citadel Felbar, if you are familiar with the Forgotten Realms and that world. But he ended up working for and being a lieutenant for a general in a civil war. So he got a lot of battle experience there. He was able to really hone his fighting skills, and he got a little bloodlusty. So he then changed his name to Bloodcaller, which is also a super dope name. And then from Bloodcaller, once that civil war was over, he lost his purpose. And everyone that fought on that side, which was the losing side, had to flee. So he fled, and he lost his way. And that's when he became Kegsbane. And so when we started the campaign, he already had all that history, and then he became a drunk. And so the last 13 levels have been him redeeming himself, and along the way, finding a Warlock patron. So he actually multi-classed into Warlock 3 levels ago, because he started out just as a fighter, and then once he found his patron and sort of proved himself to his patron, he was able to capture that power, and mechanically just made the character more interesting as well for that player. So it was sort of a narrative win and a mechanical win there as well. So the narrative moment that makes sense for this character going forward is to then reunite with his tribe. So he hasn't been with his tribe since he was much, much younger. He left not on good terms. Goliaths, at least in the lore presented in the Forgotten Realms, which I twist and change all the time, by the way. So you might hear me say stuff that has nothing to do with what is in the Forgotten Realms, but I just use it as sort of a baseline world. So Goliath don't like basically old people, which is really sad, especially given the current environment. But once you outlive your physical usefulness, you're kind of expected to leave. And so he did as he got older. And so now for me, I think the thing that makes the most sense is he presented me with this really cool concept of a tribe. I know exactly where they are geographically, and they are essentially on their way between main story objectives. So this is a perfect time to sort of insert that. So on Tuesday's stream, we fleshed out what that Goliath tribe looked like. We talked about, I can bring it up here. Actually, this might be a good time to transition. Hey, Nerdstrong Gym is now hosting you. Thank you very much, Nerdstrong. Everybody, Andrew at Nerdstrong is the best coach ever. I've been only working with him for the last month and a half or 2 months, and it's been awesome and transformative. So if you feel like you're stuck inside and you can't figure out how to get rid of the cabin fever that's plaguing you, Nerdstrong is the answer. And when you go and you sign up for an online membership, make sure you tell Andrew that I sent you, and maybe I'll get some of that sweet commish. No, there's no commission. I'm just kidding. So let's pull up my prep tool, which I love. Again, I'll say it a million times, but let's do this. Transition. Oh God, how do I do this? Oh, this is not going to look good. All right. So I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. This is my favorite tool in the whole wide world. And I know we're here to be creative, and I know we're here to talk about D&D and the adventure and the narrative, but I will plug the living shit out of Notion every time I'm on stream because it is the best thing ever. And again, Notion, if you're watching and you want to sponsor, I'm not really looking to make money, but I'll take it. So this is Notion, everybody. This is my D&D prep software. If you look on the side, you'll also see a bunch of other shit. It's actually my life prep software. I put everything in here. But Notion is a fantastic alternative to OneNote or Evernote or any of those sort of outdated old pieces of software that haven't kept up with the times. It's fantastically flexible, and I put everything in it. So this is my D&D prep dashboard. Some of you guys saw this in the last few streams. And I just organize this in a very simple way. There's a table of contents. I have an adventure outline, which we talked about last time. And so you can see that they are in level 13 right now. They have a couple of objectives. These are just some places in the world that they need to go and get some MacGuffins. We all know what that's like. Go get the MacGuffin, come back, I'll give you something in return, blah, blah, blah. So those MacGuffins are essential to the main quest, but we're not going to talk about that right now because they're not going to come back to the main quest for a couple sessions. And in between, I've already inserted, hey, Kegsbane's tribe. This is an adventure we should do. And I don't really have much more than that, but we figured what that should be. We figured out what that should be last time. And there's a little note that's there that says, earn runestones. And we also got to talk about that last time, which was really fun. We got to sort of design a new mechanic that looks a little bit like the jewel mechanics or gemstone mechanics in RPGs where you can infuse a gemstone into a weapon and it gives it a buff. Basically the same thing. I then have a table called session guides, which is right here. And you can now see all the sessions I've run for this campaign since I started using Notion, which is about little under a year ago. And the next session is already in here. We started that last time, which is called Intercepting the Dawn Titan. I call it that because the delivery that I talked about earlier that the players are trying to intercept, the delivery is of a gigantic fire elemental called Megara the Dawn Titan. I hope I'm saying that right. But it's fantasy, so it doesn't matter. So that's what we've called it, but there's a couple things that, have nothing to do with that are going to happen in this session as well. But you can see that this is what we did on Thursday. We prepped the tactics that we're going to want to use for the fight going forward, which is interesting stuff. We've got mages, we've got warriors, we've got shadow demons, and we've got, a bunch of things that they can do together to make the fight more interesting. So we won't go over this. You guys should go check out the previous stream if you're interested in sort of how I prep combat and some of the other ideas that people had for how the combat could go and all that stuff. So it was an interesting and fascinating prep session to do that. So I'm actually just going to change this thing right here. Next session guide is not Iron Slag Part 3. They did that already. It is intercepting. I really hope nothing embarrassing comes up when I search for things and it auto-completes things like, Ishan's, horse porn. I don't have horse porn. Okay. So, I also keep a list of to-dos here, which need to get done at some stage. And so previously we had figured out what that tribe needed to look like. I'll just quickly look at that so you guys can see it. Oh, wrong guy. There's also a character named Kelp. He's not made of seaweed. Just to let you know. So, Isoase, I'm going to put Kegsbane right here as well. And frankly, I think Kegsbane is due for a name change. So one of the to-do items here is to ask the player who plays Kegsbane. Oh man, you can't see that. There you go. Ask the player who plays Kegsbane if they want to come up with a new name or if they want us to come up with one. So if you guys have ideas for his new name based on where he is as a character, then you should absolutely let me know in chat and we'll talk about naming, which is super fun. Remember, Bloodcaller, Kegsbane, this guy's got like a really lit history of names. You wish you were 1% as organized as this. Hey, I did too. And then I got Notion and I got organized. And then I also realized that there is no way I can keep track of everything that's happening this campaign without an organizational structure like this. But also, I just really enjoy it. I really enjoy feeling like all the information is at my fingertips. And even this is incredibly incomplete. I don't have 3 characters in my campaign. I've got like 4, Dave is a good name. It feels like a natural progression from Bloodcaller and Kegsbane. I used to be Bloodcaller. And then I was Kegsbane. And then I was Dave. It sounds right to me. I would roll with it. So if he asks, "Hey, I'd like you to come up with a name," the first thing I'm going to suggest is Dave. You've done it. You've injected yourself into the campaign. We are now creating together. Well done, Coach George. Oh, that's Nietzsche power. I don't know if I should call you guys by your real names or by your tags. I don't know how people do it on Twitch. I feel like I should probably just call you by your tag because otherwise no one else is going to know who the hell I'm talking about. But, whatever. Also, I wanted to thank you for the follow, Nietzsche Power. I also hope I'm saying Nietzsche Power right. I'm not saying that right. That's not right. Nietzsche. God, I'm going to butcher this. I'm going to look it up because it's important. It's important to say names correctly, even when they're made up names. Nietzsche Power. Okay. Pronunciation. You'd think that, being named after a famous philosopher, I would know how to say that, but I really, really don't. All right, here we go. How to say Nietzsche. Oh my God, I said that so wrong. I am so sorry. Fuck. Listen to that one more time. You guys can't hear this, sorry, because you don't have my computer output. But if you're wondering, he says Nietzsche. Nietzsche. That's so not close to what I was saying. I was saying Nietzsche. I was trying to actually say the letters like an idiot. It's European. I should know. I should never say all the letters. Something's got to be silent. Nietzsche. I feel like there's a little bit of a, like, right in the middle there. It's not just Nietzsche, it's Nietzsche, but I could be wrong. I need to properly practice that. I promise I will learn how to say your username properly. You followed, after all. You're part of the community now. You're in. You're stuck. Sober Shield. That's actually a pretty fucking good name. I also like how it could be shortened. What's up, Sobes? Sobes. Because everyone calls Kegsbane Kegs now. He's just Kegs. I don't know what blood color would have been. Probably would have been pretty awkward. What's up, blood? That's a little tacky, But Sobes is cool. Sober Shield. I'm going to write those down, guys. We have suggestions from the community. We have Dave. And we have Sober Shield, which is cool. I will absolutely share this with the player, and we'll see what he thinks. He's generally the kind of guy that, gives me a little leeway to play around with stuff. But, at this point, he's playing, so I feel like he would want to come up with his name. We'll find out, though. I want to give him the option. So I was going to show you what we did on Tuesday. So this is the prep that we did together on Tuesday. This is, let me see if I can make it a little wider so you can see more of it. That might have made it harder to see. I don't know. Coach Andrew? That would be a terrible name for a Goliath. Just a terrible name in general, really. I don't know. I don't like that idea. It's not good. I'm just kidding. I will never say that an idea is bad, except for when you tell me to name a character Coach Andrew. That is a bad idea. It's bad. So this is what we came up with. Reuniting with this tribe. We came up with a hook, which was they find a young injured Goliath. Maybe a short Goliath. You're not that short, man. It's not that bad. But you are much shorter than a Goliath, so it would be a difference. It's true. I think Kegsbane is somewhere between 7 and 8 feet tall. So it's got a little bit of height on us, mere mortals. That's true. But I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe he loves Coach Andrew as a next step. Maybe he really gets into mentoring and training young Goliath to be more fit and be more wholesome and, build a community around fitness. It's possible. It's possible. You never know. Isn't a short Goliath just a human? Yeah, sorta. Like a naked, hairless human with natural markings all over them who lives in the mountains. Well, that just sounds like a hermit. It's possible. I don't know. Chunky human? Yeah. Are you calling yourself chunky? I don't know what's going on here anymore. I don't like it. This sounds self-deprecating. Not healthy. Not healthy for a creative environment. Don't be self-deprecating. You're good, man. You're fucking good at what you do. I think Kegsbane should be honored if his name was Coach Andrew, even if that made him a chunky, short human. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that. So they find young injured Goliath. He's on his rite of passage. He's trying to kill a Yeti. That Yeti is absolutely about to destroy him. You know, we're talking like club up in the air and just, slamming. I can't ignore chat. The whole point is to be creative and to collaborate with you guys. Although if I keep talking about random shit with you, we're never actually make anything. So I'll ignore some of it, maybe. But I also don't have that instinct yet. If I see something in chat, it completely overrides my attention. I haven't built that muscle to immediately filter things very quickly based on whether they are relevant to the stream and would be useful to talk about, or if they would just be a distraction. If it's there in chat, my brain goes, I got to respond to that. That's in chat. That's someone talking to me. Oh my God. And so hopefully that's something I will get over eventually. But I also don't want to. I mean, it's a small community. It's always going to be a small community. This is never going to be a channel that has 300 viewers. That's never going to happen. This is a small collaborative environment where, I mean, you can't really have 300 people on a whiteboard. It just doesn't work. So I think inherently it's going to be small. So if I do take up chat on everything they say, it's not that bad. But we do got to stay on task. So he's about to be killed by a Yeti, and the Yeti is paralyzing him in its gaze. It's got a paralyzing gaze ability, and he has just enough time to shout out to the party for help. Of course, they are obligated morally to help him. I figured they probably will. If not, we can always pivot and find a different way to drag him into the adventure. We also came up with a name for him. His name is Cliff Prancer, which I love because the insinuation is that, he's tried really hard to find this Yeti over the last year. And he's still young, so they're still going to make fun of him back in the tribe. But Cliff Prancer could be a cool name under the right circumstances. It's not, but it could be. Yeah, that is true. I the chat tries to stop them. It's working so far. Have you noticed how much we've gone? How far we've gone? We've gotten nowhere. I've just been waxing poetic about Twitch, not really talking about D&D very much. Parallels his coaching style. As in, he's trying to stop us from getting fit, or we try to stop him from coaching? I don't know. Doesn't happen, everybody. Nerdstrong is extremely efficient and very effective workout program. Get on it. A Yeti with a paralyzing gaze sounds awesome. I know. All Yetis have paralyzing gazes, as I found out by looking at the monster manual. It's super cool. So the idea is basically this young Goliath comes in, and after he gets rescued by the party, he tells them that the tribe is threatened by a cohort of frost giants and accompanying orc henchmen. This lines up with our main story, which is the giants are running rampant, and it also gives us sort of a villain to juxtapose, because you wouldn't want someone to just walk into their tribe and be like, "Hey, what's up? How's it going?" There's got to be some conflict. There's got to be some tension. There's got to be something for the players to come and resolve, so that there can be a journey with those characters. There can be a journey between where they start out, which is the tribe probably doesn't trust him. It probably doesn't want him there. But he's going to feel like, I got to help these guys. Or maybe he doesn't and he just walks away. That's fine too. I don't railroad the players. If they want to just skip past this, totally fine with that. Also, if anybody hears any yelling in the background, it's my girlfriend playing Rocket League, and there's just a lot of yelling in that game in general, so I apologize. I do want to shout out real quickly to, I think in chat he's Vic Miggs, but he's a friend of mine, and he sat with me for 3 to 4 hours last night, messing with audio settings and filters, and he's a musician himself. He's an awesome bass player, among other things. He helped me understand compressors and expanders and limiters and is responsible for why I sound a lot better than I did last stream. So thank you. That's a lot of it is credit to him for helping me sort of understand how to work all of those tools. So if you don't hear mouse clicks, it's because he helped me set up the expander. If you don't hear background noise, it's because he helped me set up that stuff. So I'm an engineer as well, not just a game designer. I loved that stuff. It was super fun to just learn. I mean, honestly, half the reason I'm even streaming is so I could set this up. This is super cool to me, and learning about audio engineering and nerding out about that stuff is super fun. So, like I said, if I had no viewers and I just got to set this stuff up, it'd be awesome. So anyway, thank you, Vic Miggs, for helping me set that stuff up. It sounds really awesome. And actually, I was going to offer up your services to other people, but I won't do that. You have like a real job, and that was just a favor to me. So I appreciate it. Thank you for saying that my setup sounds great, because I'm very happy about that. A lot of this is going to be me talking, and I am really happy that it sounds good. That's important to me. I still need to add background music to fill the void when I'm not talking. Right now, I feel like I have to keep talking continuously, because otherwise it's going to be awkward and silent, and I'll probably die. But background music would be great. And I also have to set up overlays and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of work to do, but I think the bones are here, and it's enough for people to come and be creative and enjoy, and that's all that really matters. So, Nerdstrong Jim, I'm happy to help with anything I can for your Twitch stream. Obviously, you won't have the benefit of having a mic with a stand like this, but there's probably some stuff you can do. I don't know. I think your stream is great, honestly. Like, we're working out. We don't need a lot. We just need to be able to see what's happening and hear the instructions, and that's it. It's good. So, thank you. Oh my God, I'm going to say it right. Nietzsche Power. Fuck. God damn it. I'm going to say it wrong again. We're going to look it up again, because we have to know. Post your setup in your bio. Nietzsche Power, thank you so much for joining me while you were here. I really appreciated your participation, and we will see you next time. Post your setup in your bio. Sure. Yeah, I've seen a lot of Twitch streamers post their hardware in there, but I think it'd be pretty fun to actually post the filters and stuff that I'm using as well. I think the thing about audio is that it's very, very bespoke to the setup that you have. So my audio filters may not match someone else's. And I also realize that a lot of it has to do with the ancillary equipment around your microphone. So this is a great microphone. It's a Blue Yeti Nano, but I've also got the windscreen. I had a pop filter. I have a stand that, allows it to be in the exact position that I want. I've got a shock absorber coming on Amazon, so you can't hear all the clickety clacks of my keyboard. But a lot of that stuff is going to be totally different for someone else in a different situation. So I think the best thing is to find a friend who's really good at audio and force them to help you, like I did. So do that. So getting back to this, so we've got reuniting with a tribe. Young Goliath comes in and pulls the adventurers in, says, "My tribe is in danger. You got to come help us." And it's giants, so it's important to your overall mission in general. There's some conflicts going on in that tribe. There's some key NPCs that we've expanded on here. There's a leader or elder named Skywatcher, and he is the wise, quiet type. There's also a war chief named Dawn Carver, and she is tough, scarred, arrogant, knows exactly what she wants to do and what she wants from her troops. She's good at her job. She has a lot of loyalty within the tribe, and there's always a little bit of tension between those two figures. And of course, if there's problems with frost giants, obviously the war chief isn't doing the best job, or perhaps, and this is more likely, just is working with resources that don't match the situation, which is where the party comes in. They can help. So my hope is that, aside from all of the, "Oh my God, you're back. Like, why are you here? You left us. Now you come back and you pretend to care, blah, blah, blah." That's going to be super fascinating to role play out. But also, it'll just be really interesting to see a Goliath that, when he left, knew nothing about the world and had just sort of learned to kill with his bare hands and learned to hunt. Left and then turned into an a honed warrior and now is returning to this tribe, not just with his military prowess and tactical prowess, but also with a litany of new powers granted to him by his patron. It's going to be super fascinating to see the reaction of these NPCs to that player, but also to see how that player, how that character comes in and says, listen, I've got 1,001 ideas that I would never have had before if I had stayed in this tribe on how you can defeat these giants and make your home safe. And I think that's also going to be really, really interesting for me to see how the player ends up putting that forth into the world. So I'm super excited about that. And I think this is going to be a really, really fun arc to play. So those are like sort of the bones of it. We've also got, like I said, these giant runes. I gave the players an item, a sword of giant slaying, a very special one that essentially creates mystical stones that can be used to provide enchantments for items under the right circumstances. It's just like a pure mechanical benefit, fun, gamey thing that I gave the players that they are going to finally be. I mean, they've been accumulating runes for like a year and a half in real life time because they started accumulating runes at like level 3. So it's going to be really cool to see them finally be able to use these stones of power because, of course, there's going to be some person in the tribe that has been collecting runes like this for a long time, knows exactly what to do with them. We've detailed out the sort of the lore of that here, but it's just gonna be really cool to see what they do. They're probably gonna be like, "Oh my god, give me all the fucking runes. Let's turn them into some dope enchants. Let's get that loot." And that's what it's there for. I'm totally happy with that. So hopefully they'll really like the menu of options that they have in front of them. But here's the thing. This is done. We did this on Thursday. I've just been recapping for you for the last 45 minutes. Probably not a great idea. We just spent, I'm streaming for 2 hours. I just spent 45 minutes either dicking around with chat or talking about something we've already covered. What am I doing? Miguel, or Vic Migs probably would have noted that I peaked there. My audio. Sorry for yelling. So let's get to what we actually need to do today, what our creative endeavor is going to be today. So for those of you that are still around and sat through my spiel, sorry about that, let's get creating. So the thing that's actually going to happen this session is not going to be them going to this giant tribe, because a very, very exciting event is happening in this campaign. And that is the return of an old player that had quit the campaign maybe almost a year ago at this point. And that's super, super exciting. This is like the one tiny silver lining for coronavirus for me, is that even though I much prefer playing D&D in person, having to play or being forced to play electronically allows players that left because they moved, in this case, this person moved to Seattle, to come back and play. So a very good friend of mine, I'm not going to say his name, but is coming back to the campaign. His character is a half-elf warlock. I'm sorry, half-elf sorcerer named Bowden Dunn. And Bowden is the kind of character, what's the best way to describe him? He's like a hippie surfer combined with an 18-year-old dude like just out of high school is probably the best way to describe him. Very, hey dude, what's up? Literally is how he plays the character. That said, there's a lot of interesting depth to the character as well. Yeah, I think so too. I think coronavirus has probably increased D&D playing a lot. I mean, this campaign used to be once every 2 weeks at best, and now it's once a week, which is great because now I'm doing this Twitch stream thing, so I actually have sessions to prep for every week. But yeah, like we were once every 2 weeks at best, sometimes once a month, and now it's become weekly because transit time is reduced and all that other stuff. And I think everybody who's on this stream knows that the hardest thing about D&D is not D&D. It's the logistics of D&D. It's getting a group together. It's setting a schedule. It's playing regularly. It's getting people to show up and commit and be nice to each other and not want to quit because they hate someone or because the campaign isn't fun or whatever. There's like a million and one reasons why D&D campaigns fall apart, and very few of them have to do with the actual game itself. So you're right. I do think that coronavirus has probably increased D&D playing a lot, and I'm sure Roll20 is maxed out as well. I mean, if Zoom and Google Hangouts can barely handle it, I'm sure Roll20 is, they're done. So I thought that today we could do one of two things. Either we can prep for the return of this player, or sorry, I'm hearing my girlfriend scream at the top of her lungs about Rocket League, and I can't not hear it. Even with my noise canceling headphones, I can hear it. So you guys could definitely hear it. So we actually have a bunch of to-dos that we could work on. And I'm so sorry for asking this so late, 45, 50 minutes into the stream, but we have some options. So let me put my options in front of you. And if you have a suggestion or an inclination of what you'd like to work on, let's do it. So we could prepare for his return. A little context on that. He is currently in hell because we got rid of his character, or sunset his character, by having him basically sign an infernal contract and get whisked away to the second layer of hell. So we could figure out how he comes back from that and reintroduces himself into the campaign, preferably in a way that allows him to exit again once all this craziness is over. Another thing we could do is, I have a player that hasn't gotten a magic item in a long time, and I feel bad because everyone else has gotten super cool magic items, and I've just somehow totally missed this guy and passed him over a bunch of times. He's done a great job of playing his character. He's done so much to make that character richer and grab onto the threads of story that I put in front of him and really attack it with gusto. And I feel like I haven't rewarded him at all. So we could also come up with a custom an item for this person, who is a dwarven cleric that likes to eat a lot and just wishes he was a little bit more powerful. So if you guys would like to work on a custom item together for this person, I think that'd be super fun. We could go look at Cleric, the class, and see what kind of items they need and what would be really interesting for him, and level him up a little bit. And then the only other thing I can think of that we can do is we can try and think of oh, you know what? There's another thing, which is tactics for Biorun as well. So this is the third option we can do. Biorun as well is just a small side adventure. It's just go get this MacGuffin from this place, that whatever. The reason I say tactics for it, though, is because I decided to drop in, maybe we decided, I can't remember. We decided to drop in an adult white dragon on that. So just super fun tactical combat. I don't think these guys have actually fought a dragon in this campaign, so this will be their first. In a campaign about giants, this will be their first time really encountering an adult dragon, or any dragon for that matter. And I think the tactics for how this dragon fights against level 13 characters would be super interesting to talk about. So I'll just put that in front of you guys as three options. So I've highlighted them on the screen. We can prepare for Bodin's return. It actually may not happen tomorrow. It might happen the week after, so we can also save that one if we want to. Tactics for Biorun as well, which is probably where they're going to go next, just geographically speaking. Or we can make a custom item for this cleric and reward this player that hasn't been rewarded in a while. Any opinions on which of these three highlighted things we should do? I'll just be silent for a second and wait for chat feedback. I'm just going to see how it goes. What does chat think of these three options? What should we work on? I don't know what the delay is like, so I can't actually tell when chat comes in, but let's see. All right, radio silence, I think. All right. Also, it's a really good thing that you can't hear her, because I think that means that my friend's audio setup is performing very well. I think the expander is probably killing all noise at the bottom. Great. I'm curious about magic item creation. Let's do it. Question for you, Mr. V Prasad 17. Have you created magic items before from scratch? Because if you haven't, It's super fun to do. I like to do it by just starting out with, oh, Megan asked for an item. Good to know. So we've got 2 votes for item. Let's do it. Yeah, I would love to know how you guys approach creating magic items if you have at all. I can certainly walk you through how I do it, and we can do it together. So, oh no, cool. Let's do it. Let's make your first custom magic item. I know it's not for your campaign, but fuck it, right? Let's do it. All right, so to be honest, I don't have like a process that like I follow. I don't have like a 10-step plan for creating a cool magic item, but this is where I guess we get to really be creative. So like the first thing I would want to do is I would want to think about what are the goals of this item? What do we want to do with it? Let's start up a note, and I have a table of magic items that I've given to the players. Let's start up a thing, shall we? You can see right here, these are the magic items I've given to the players, and everybody is listed here except for Kelp. Poor Kelp. The Spirit of Daylight item isn't even like that cool. It was more of a narrative item for him that we don't need to talk about right now. So, item for Kelp. We'll just call it that for now, and then we'll give it a fucking cool name later together, which will be really fun. All right, so we've got like an hour to make this magic item. Let's fucking do it. I think we can do it in less than that. So intended for Kelp, doesn't have an owner yet, so we'll clear that out. All right, so let's just start. Objectives. So first of all, I think you guys feel free to just kick in here. Like if you have ideas for objectives or even just ideas for an item, throw them at me. We'll write them down, and we'll, typically like we'll just, we start with blue sky. No, you're not getting in trouble for liking it all. Not at all. I was actually saying that I really enjoyed listening to you play Rocket League. It was really fun for me to hear. And turns out that people on the stream can't hear it because Miguel is awesome at audio. So no problem. So if you guys have ideas, so the way I like to start this kind of stuff is you start with a really wide net. You start with all the ideas you can think of. You start with basically what we call blue sky brainstorm. So there's no bad ideas. There's only cool ideas and funny ideas and inspiring ideas. So if you have an idea for an item, throw it out, and we will stick it on the board, and we'll come back to it, and we'll do a refinement pass. We'll talk about, okay, well, those are cool ideas, but they don't really work. We'll do that later. But the important part for me about a blue sky brainstorm is that we get to just inspire each other, and we get to, when you get that energy flowing, you get ideas that some of them don't make sense, but who cares? Because they might make you think of other ideas that actually might be winners. But unless you allow yourself to be open like that creatively, you'll limit your options in the beginning. So even when I'm by myself, I will try and just be as blue sky as possible, and I'll sort of isolate it down from there. It does help to not start with a blank page. I think every creative doesn't like a blank page. So we can lay out some objectives if we need to, or we can just start with ideas. So I'm going to make 2 sections here, which is just one is like blue sky ideas. Let's do it. So we have our first idea, a staff that can also be used as a sniper rifle that shoots blow darts. I like it. That actually sounds super cool. I'm also wondering, like, for a cleric, he doesn't use his melee weapons very often. But there's 2 ways to approach that. We could either say we want to give him a weapon that he's going to use because it's so awesome, or we're going to give him a weapon that isn't used as a weapon and just enhances his other abilities. I actually think that the first one is cooler. I think it's cooler to sort of like make him realize that he has options beyond just his spells. So that's something for me is like, I would say an objective for me is to give him a weapon that's actually useful as a weapon. A blank paper. It's just a nightmare for him. It's, oh my God, what do I do with this blank piece of paper? I don't know what to create. Help me. Also, you guys will notice I do this thing where when I'm thinking, I just type OK over and over again like this. That's why you see the cursor moving like that. It's just a tick. I don't know why I do it. I think an obvious objective would also be, if you have more ideas, throw them out. Another obvious objective to me would be that it enhances his cleric abilities or complements him in some way, or complements his cleric abilities. Another one would be it's on theme for the character. So what does that mean? Well, a couple of his notable themes are that he is a follower of Sune, who is the god of light and love, maybe? Fuck, I don't remember. That's actually important. We should look that up. Let's look that up. Sune, D&D 5e, is the goddess of beauty. That's right. That's right. So he's not a beauty cleric, though. He is a light cleric. So he is a follower of Sune, goddess of beauty, which is interesting. A focus stone that he can charge up that increases his healing. That is a fucking great idea. I love that. That's super cool also because it creates this anticipation. You know, I could see it. He charges it up. He has to maybe spend actions or spend evenings or downtime or whatever, like putting magic. Maybe he pushes spell slots into this item over time. And as he pushes spell slots in, he uses up the spell slot, but he can do it when he's resting and when he's got spell slots to spare. He pushes in, maybe he pushes in like, you know, up to 20 levels worth of spell slots. So 5 4th level spell slots or 4 5th level spell slots or whatever. And he pushes them into the item. And based on how much he pushes it in, his healing spells all do an extra 1d4, 2d4, 3d4, 2d6. I don't know, whatever. That's super cool. I think that's awesome. So maybe he pushes spell slots in up to a cap to increase healing by a certain dice roll. That's a super cool item. A powerful magic hammer with dark magic that affects him negatively in some way, but does extra necromancy damage. I gotta read that again. A powerful magic hammer with dark magic that affects him negatively in some way, but does extra negative. Oh, like a cursed one. That's super cool. It reminds me of an item on Critical Role that some of you might know, but this character gets a sword, and the sword is cursed, and it speaks to the character. It's got a voice. It's sentient, and in the character's mind, it's saying things like, "Give me blood, feed me, give me things that I need to eat. I need to eat food. I need to eat people." And it's putting this this sort of like niggling voice in this character's head to do bad stuff, and it's promising him power in return, which I feel like is even more impactful in D&D than it is in other narrative mediums, because in D&D, it's not just the character and the narrative that's driving things. It's also the fact that the player wants to be powerful. They want to have mechanical bonuses. They literally like are like, well, yeah, I know it's cursed, but like I get an extra 2d6 necromantic damage on top of whatever I do. Like that's a real hard to resist. And it's also fun to deal with cursed items. So that's super cool. Does extra necromancy damage? Totally. Although, no, I dig it. Let's do it. So I'm just gonna copy pasta that from chat straight in here. I also want to say one thing, which is that if you think you're not creative and you think I'm not that kind of person, you're wrong. Anybody can be creative. Anybody can have ideas. Good ideas come from anywhere. It's not just from creative people. It's not just from people that are trained in that. Ideas literally come from anywhere, and they can all be good. Someone who's trained in creativity just knows how to run the process and maybe knows how to refine those ideas into something that like is actually an actual product. But good ideas come from everywhere, and especially in this blue sky process, throw them out there. Anything you think of. I don't care if it's stupid. I don't care if it sounds dumb. I don't care if you think it's not a good idea. Just throw it out there, and we will do something with it. It will influence our thinking in a way that we cannot predict yet. And that is super cool. And it also means that everything that you come up with has promise. It has the ability to influence and shape the thing we're trying to create. So tell me what's in your head. The sword reminds me of Nightblood from the Brandon Sanderson novels. I don't know that sword. Tell me about that sword. I've read Brandon Sanderson. I've read the Stormlight archive. I think it's what it's called. But I have not read Mistborn or anything like that. So if you want to tell me a little bit more about Nightblood, maybe it can inspire us as well. So we can jot that down as well. That's cool. I like that a lot. The dark magic hammer. I also like the idea of giving him a mini quest within this item. So let's say that this powerful magic hammer has dark magic. What if the dark magic was a curse that was removable? So he went on a quest. We gave him something really interesting to do, and he was able to basically earn his way out of the curse. And then, as a bonus, just for fun, because I think it would be really delightful, is when he releases the curse, the item actually takes on a second form. Having removed the limiter or the dark magic from that item, now it gets additional benefits that really sort of make it feel like it's bloomed without the presence of that dark magic. So I'm going to add that as a sub idea, possibly, which is a side quest to remove curse. Upon removal, item blooms, quote unquote, blooms into having secondary or enhanced function. Cool. So we talked a lot about. Oh, okay. We got a Nightblood thing here. So Stormlight spoilers. If you haven't watched Stormlight, go away. Watched Red Stormlight. Nightblood also appears in Oathbringer Book 3. It's Zeth's magic sword that he calls Nimi. Oh. It rings a bell. It's honestly been like a year or two since I've read Oathbringer, but it does ring a bell. Nightblood. What does it do, though? Do you remember? Can you say it in chat if it's not too much of a spoiler for anybody who cares or doesn't care? Another thing we also need to know is, so I like this right here a lot because this sort of this tells us what this item does. So we've got some really cool. I mean, there's also no reason that these can't all be one item. A focus stone that he can charge up that increases healing. Maybe this item is just something that you can charge up that increases your healing. In fact, maybe this is a cool idea. Let's blend these two ideas and say that you have a cursed weapon that initially that has two forms. Form 1 is it does extra necromancy damage. This is its sort of base, crude, awesome, but still and helpful, but still cursed form. And form 2 is once it actually, curse released, then it takes on the properties of that stone of being able to charge up through spell slots and increase healing. So now can increase healing by storing up, by pushing spell slots into it, which I like a lot. I love the idea of items that sort of bloom into other items, or that take on additional things later on in the story, because it means that there's a surprise. There's an Easter egg hidden within this already awesome thing that you were excited to have, and now that thing just becomes even cooler, and it's been on you the whole time. I think it's super cool. I love that kind of stuff. Nightblood sucks life power from anyone nearby, but once it runs out of enemies to feed off of, it starts feeding off of its user. Interesting. That's very interesting. I just took off my headphones and I realized that I'm probably yelling into the microphone. So I apologize if my audio sounds like shit, but I'm going to try taking them off because I'm not actually playing anything in them. I just use them for focus sometimes. And I'm just curious to see whether you guys think I'm softer or I sound better or not. Also, wow, my ears are hot. They've like been in headphones for an hour. Oh, that's good. Maybe I'll put them back on, but cool. I'll flatten my hair out. Um, okay, so we've got an idea forming here, which is a cursed weapon that eventually turns into or blooms into another weapon after the curse has been removed, which is a really cool idea. So we'll continue playing on that theme in a second. Initially in my head, I was like, oh man, a cursed weapon would kind of suck initially because, we're trying to give him a reward. We're trying to be like, hey, here, here's a cool item that you can have because you haven't had any cool items. And then he's going to be like, oh, of course it's got a curse. Nothing is good for me, is it? So maybe that's still a little bit true. Maybe we should avoid a curse just because it would maybe make him feel like we're giving him something and then taking something away. But I'd kind of be willing to do it anyway, just because the idea of it blooming into something else is so compelling, and I think eventually will make him really appreciate the item. I'll also say that the curse doesn't have to be bad. It might just be bad in his personality, the way that the critical role sword that I talked about earlier was. I think there actually were downsides, mechanical downsides to that sword, but maybe this is just sort of like a cool side character that we can put in that becomes part of the mythos of this character of Kelp, who dealt with, some kind of a crazy being inside of this sword. And maybe there can be some mechanical stuff, but I think it should just be cool to use initially. So extra necromancy damage sounds awesome. I would think I would even want it to be more plussed up than that. Like, what else can we do to make this cursed weapon feel like, oh, this isn't just cursed. This is cursed and it's fucking awesome. And I love this power and I love having what this curse gives me. I think would be super cool to talk about as well. Like what else, just returning to our objectives, like a couple things are, he's a cleric of light. So he has a lot of spells and abilities that are all about bright flashes of light or radiant damage or dawn or sun or things like that. He is just a light producing fiend. So that's pretty cool. And then another thing that's on theme for the character is that he eats a lot. Which, oh god, I'm just gonna steal this straight from Critical Role. It's okay. It's a little bit different. I like the idea of this sword, so let's say it's got a personality. Cursed personality. We should actually figure out what this thing is cursed with. We should figure out who it is that is living in the sword. What is this personality? Is it the sword? Is it something trapped within the sword? I don't know. But it would be really cool if it was obsessed with eating, just like Kelp was. Kelp is like, he's like a fatty dwarf. He can't stop eating. He loves it. He like, the jokes at the table are always like, he's got his sword tucked into one belt loop and he's got a chicken leg stuck into his other belt loop, which is awesome. And he's always eating and whatever. But there's no like mechanical thing to the eating. It's just something that he came up with. And I love the idea of actually like giving this sword a foil. And not a foil in that like he's not opposite to Kelp, but a foil in the sense that Kelp can look in the mirror and see a little bit of himself in this sword and vice versa. Except, of course, the sword probably wants something darker. He probably wants blood or lives or luck, or he wants to steal something intrinsic from people that maybe isn't all about causing people suffering, but it's certainly about him engorging. And that like idea of gluttony is a really cool thing to play with. So he's obsessed with eating in general, but how does a sword eat? I mean, a sword eats with blood. It eats with violence. It eats with cutting and slashing. So maybe every as the sword is not used, or the longer the sword is not used, the more insistent or the more hungry it gets, and the more insistent it gets about eating. And maybe that amps up the power as well. You know, this being or whatever is cursed inside the sword grows in power because he's hungry. He wants that blood more than he did before when he was satiated. So that also gives our item a nice natural up and down. It's not always powerful. It sort of is. It charges up, it loosens, and that fits nicely with um, the bloom defect, which is that it also has a natural up and down. It doesn't always increase healing. It'll increase healing as spell slots are pushed into it. So the more insistent it gets about eating, the more the damage grows on the sword, which is awesome. So maybe more. And mechanically, what does that mean? I don't know. Maybe it means that every calendar day. No, that's a lot. Every few calendar. I'm always hesitant to put in calendar related things into D&D because I don't do a great job of tracking the calendar in the game. If you asked me when in game time did they do X, Y, and Z, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't even tell you how long they've been adventuring together in game time. I know in real life time, but I for for all of this organization and Notion, I really don't do a good job of keeping track of timeline, and I think I should do that a little bit better. So maybe this is an opportunity to grow and to learn how to do that. Maybe it is. So maybe every few calendar days, or whenever I feel like it, or DM's choice. The damage on the sword grows by 1d4, I think is fair. So maybe when he gets it, it's like, I'm so hungry. And it starts out at like we should come up with a cap for it. And this is the other thing about magic items is that it's got to be balanced. So we can't give him something that's insane as much as we would like the items to be because it'll break the game and ruin all the combat encounters and whatever. But remember that this is a primarily spellcasting focused character, so giving him a sword that presents a decent alternative to his spells is actually pretty cool, I think. So maybe when he first gets the sword, it'll be super hungry and at its cap damage or max damage. Oh, that's right. So we have to define its to a maximum of, I don't know. Sometimes for this kind of stuff, I just like throw on a number that I feel like sounds right to me, or is maybe based off of some guesswork. And then a lot of times with items, I'll post them to Reddit or D&D Beyond's forums, and I'll just see what people think, because there are people online that have a way better head for the numerical math behind class balance than I do. And then they typically can tell me that's overpowered, that's a little underpowered, this is good for the region that you're hitting. So I don't know, what do you guys think? I mean, I think a maximum of I want it to have some range. It can't just be like 1d4 to 3d4 because that's kind of lame. You want it to really feel like, oh my god, if I don't feed the sword for some time, it's gonna really get up there in damage for sure. So maybe, I don't know, maybe like, what's a good way to think about this? Well, it can't really be a sword, right? What, first of all, what kind of items do clerics even use? I don't know, but let's look it up. We're gonna create a new window here and just pop into D&D Beyond, and we're gonna look at clerics and what kind of items that they can use. So cleric and classes, and so like I said, he's the light domain. Even though his god isn't a god of light per se. That's his domain. Oh, that explains why he has daylight. He used that last combat. Warding flare, radiance of the dawn. I think this is really cool. I mean, if we can find a way to theme this item such that he is, we'll bold that. Um, there's another idea here as well, which is um, in tune with the fact that he is um, a follower of Sune, who's the goddess of beauty. Beauty is often ephemeral. It's about changing yourself. It's about not only feeling good about how you look, but also obviously like how other people see you. And so one is just like the ability to cast disguise self or alter self. Although I think that might already be spells that clerics can cast. I'm actually pretty sure they are. So forget that idea. What did we come here for? We came here to look at weapons. All right. Okay. So you have proficiency with simple weapons. But you also start with a mace and a warhammer if proficient. Oh, okay, so a mace is a simple weapon. A warhammer is a martial weapon. Those are the two kinds of weapons. And if you're proficient with a warhammer, you get that. That makes sense. So you could have him wield a sword, but I think a long sword or something cool like that would be not within his expertise. Now he's also a dwarf, and I believe I looked this up earlier. I believe that dwarves have. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Dwarf. I think dwarves have. Combat training. You have proficiency with the battle axe, the hand axe, the light hammer, and the warhammer. Okay, cool. So this should probably be an axe or a warhammer. I don't know the differences, but let's look it up. So warhammer. I don't know what he has right now. We can look actually at his current weapon as well. Because I would want it to be a little bit different, I think, than what he had. So let's go to my campaigns, Storm King's Thunder, and this is his character sheet, everybody, which I think you can see using the D&D Beyond extension on Twitch. Although I know it's a little hard to wrangle, so I can't do anything about that. What does he got equipped? He's got a +2 mace. Where did he get a +2 mace? What the heck? I can tell you right now, I don't think I ever gave him a +2 mace. I could be wrong, but we're gonna add that to the to-do list, which is like double check. You know what? Let's actually add it into the to-dos for the next session, which is so my template for a session is always like to-dos, recap, and then all the content that has to happen in the session, just so I have a nice little starting point. Double check the origin of Kelp's +2 mace, because that's a pretty powerful item in general. So I'm very curious as to where he got that. It might have been me. I have a pretty bad memory overall. It is, right? Yeah, +2 mace is really strong. I mean, they are level 13 characters, so I don't think it's super strange, but I do think it's strange that I don't think I would have given him just an unflavored +2 mace. It just doesn't sound like something I would do. That sounds really boring. I think I would give him, let's give him a proper thing, you know? Anyway, so he can use maces, obviously, but he can also use warhammers, and he can use battle axes or great axes. So I just wanted to see what he had, and he had a mace, so both work. Do you have anything else in here? Shield, which is using scale mail. Okay. Right. Cool. I don't know. What do you think? Battle axe or warhammer? I think warhammer. Let's look at battle axe. Battle axe. Could he have a +2 mace? Somehow get powers imbued into it. Yeah, totally, absolutely. I mean, it could totally be the case that this curse is something that he comes across because he touches something dumb, or he comes across something in the mountains that curses his weapon, or he hits something that infuses his weapon with this curse. That's totally possible. But I have a suspicion that he's not actually supposed to have his +2 mace, so we'll see about that. But yeah, I think this idea is absolutely. Oops, it's the wrong one. I think this idea is absolutely transmogrifiable into something like that. 100%. Item for kelp. Okay, we're back. So a battle axe is 1d8 slashing, which is a pretty good base. It's also versatile, which means it can be used with 2 hands, and if it's used with 2 hands, it gets a bonus of 1d10 damage instead. And then we have a warhammer, which is exactly the same thing. Fascinating. It's also weird that the battle axe is heavier than the warhammer. Not that I care about weight or encumbrance at all, but I just thought it was fascinating. You would imagine that a warhammer would be heavier, but it's more expensive and heavier. It's interesting. What do you guys think, warhammer or battle axe? I don't know. What seems to fit this more? I don't think it really matters, to be honest. I think a battle axe probably makes a little bit more sense for the eating metaphor because it can slice, it can make incisions into bodies and cause blood to flow. Whereas a warhammer has to really crush something to get that blood flowing. This is super gory, I know, but I think that actually might make the most sense. You know, even if he nicks someone with his battle axe and gets a little bit of damage, that'll still feed this entity a little bit, which will be really cool. So let's go with battle axe, unless anyone has an objection. So we'll just write that here, which is, well, let's start like crafting sort of the base like item properties. And you know, I like to sort of start crystallizing ideas into separate sections so that we really separate the two. So let's just write down really quickly the base properties. So it's a battle axe. It is 1d8 slashing, and it's versatile. So these are its basic properties. Now we're going to add its magical properties. I'm just going to put them into a second column here. Again, I love how flexible Notion is in its layouts while still being structured. OneNote is way too unstructured for me. You can just align everything, and or you don't have to align anything at all. Actually, you can just put everything wherever you want. Ooh, too loose. Okay, so we can just straight up copy all this. Right in here. Awesome. Don't need that. This weapon has 2 forms. I hope the creation of a magic item has been interesting for you guys, and lived up to your expectations so far. Some of the cooler parts or like more obviously cooler parts, like finding an item or an image for it, that all comes last. I mean, we want to make sure we really lock down the functionality of this thing first. So I'll widen it so you guys can see a little bit better. I also wonder, if you're watching, what is your opinion on the screen resolution? I did up the screen resolution that I'm streaming, the source resolution, to 1920 by 1080. My monitor is not that resolution, so it doesn't fill the whole screen anymore. I could scale it, but I don't know if that's a good idea. So I just wanted to know. I also like really up the bit rate for the quality on the stream as well. From, I think it was 2500 last time. I've doubled it to 4500, more than double, less than double. So I hope that the text is readable and not too pixelated and good quality. And if it's not, then I'm very sorry, and I'll try and fix it. So just let me know how that has been and if it's readable. Okay, so we've got, so far, we've got a magic hammer that is cursed, that has a personality that is obsessed with eating, and is something that gives more and more damage the less it is fed. So mechanically, what does that sound like? I mean, one thing is we still need to come up with this maximum. And we went to go look for the battle axe because it was 1d8 slashing. If I think about the other magic items that I know, because it's often useful to compare, a frost brand, which is a common, not common, but it's a commonly used rare magic item in the game, I think gives 2d6 extra damage. So we can pull up another thing here. dndbeyond.com. I should just have D&D Beyond up at all times. It's such a useful tool. Nope. Frost Brand. There we go. Oh, okay. So it's an extra 1d6. Okay, so that's less than I thought. So I think that it would be appropriate for us to maybe give it 1d4 to a maximum of, hell, I don't know, 5d4? What's the average of 5d4? Dice average? Let's look up the dice average. I'm designing items too because at some point you have to not only get out of the theoretical and really get into the grittiness of the game mechanic. So we can look up dice averages, which is always helpful for us to sort of understand, on average, how much damage would this guy do, and would that be a problem if it was too much, or would it be kind of underpowered? So, is there a site for dice averages? Maybe we can get some good recommendations. Any dice? All right. Output 5d4. So statistically, we're most likely to get 15 out of it. It doesn't really tell us the average, though. So can we do... Is there a way to get the average, the basics? All right, we're really getting crunchy here, guys. Oh, well, thank you for joining, Vinny. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, vprasad17. Sometimes I forget to call you guys by your usernames, but thank you for joining us. And thank you for your ideas. It's been awesome. And I hope that you will tune in later to see what the final form of the item is. Or check the recording afterwards. I also want to see if I can post public links to the stuff that we work on together. I'll definitely see if... You know what? Let me write this down. I want to make sure that the Notion dashboard that I have and all the database is publicly available so everyone can peruse it if they need to. So a to-do item here is public link to NotionDB. And then also a link to the page, the specific Notion page of what we just worked on. And I can update that after every stream. And people who want to get caught up can pop right in there, which is awesome. So we'll do that. So I'll try to have that link up tonight or tomorrow, and hopefully you can check out the item that you so generously contributed to. So thank you. All right. I just wanted to find the average here. How do I do that? Addition, subtraction, blah, 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 blah. Don't need that. Output, sequences. Oh my gosh, this is too much. Wait. Functions. That's what we need. Where's that? Go back. Go back, Ashan. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. I don't want to write functions. This is too much. Function library? Average? Come on. How is average not in here? Absolute, sequence, count values, explode the dice, highest number of dice. Give me a fucking break. Dice probability calculator. All right. How do I get the average? Here's a graph. It doesn't tell me the average. One would think the average is this, but I don't think that's actually true. Here's a roller. Output 1, 6. No, this is crap. Dice average calculator. And we're going to make a note of this later when we can. If we're getting too in the weeds on this, let me know. We can get out of them. Just keep moving forward. If you guys know any dice average calculators, that'd be useful. No, I don't want dice probability. Okay. Dice average calculator. Come on. 5d4. Yes! An average. We got it. All right. We're going to save this website. in our general D&D resources. Generators and calculators. Let's save it here. So this is bookmark. See, Notion's got everything. Web bookmarks, all that kind of shit. So I'll just label this dice average calculator. Dice roll average calculator. Great. Let me actually make it a subheading. Nope. There we go. All right. I think I should probably convert this into a table at some point, but I can do that later. Let's get back to it. Magic items. Item for kelp. Open this page. All right, tight. So we got an average of 12.5. So at its max, he can do an additional, on average, of 12.5 damage. Most likely, my guess is that he's going to wait until the sword is super hungry and then let loose, because why not? But if he has to, and actually, now I think about it, that's something that he almost certainly will do because he doesn't need it normally. He does just fine with his spells for the most part. So he can just wait until. So maybe we should actually just assume that he's going to probably use it at its max. So then it becomes a question of how long does it take to get to his max, and that will be sort of the equivalent of an item that you typically see, which is like, this item is charged with energy and can do an extra 2d6 damage once every long rest, right? That gives you an idea. Okay, probably roughly every 24 hours is when this bonus damage occurs, which turns into probably like once per encounter at the most. For sure, at the most, once every encounter. Sometimes less than that. So if he has 2 back-to-back encounters, like in a dungeon crawl per se, then that kind of item you would only use in one of those encounters. And I think that's fine for this as well. So to me, I think giving this player a boost of 12 damage on one of his turns. There's a problem here. The problem is that this can't be the only property of this item. Because if it's normal damage 1d8, let's say he adds his strength, which is going to be like, what, another 3? So it's going to do, like 8 damage or something like that on average. And then you add in 12.5 damage. That's at once during the combat. This item will let him hit for 20 damage. This guy is a level 13 spellcaster. He does way, way more damage than that with his spells. So it's got to be an item that's actually compelling to use. The whole idea was to give him a weapon that was actually going to be useful for him, and would actually incentivize him to maybe not use his spells and turn to this weapon instead. Which is why the idea of enhancing healing spells was a really good one. Interesting. What can we do about this issue? Well, I have a couple ideas. One of them is that we could just do the same thing as the healing stuff, where we just inverse it and we say that instead of increasing his healing spells, it also increases his damage. So, the hungrier it gets, the more it will increase his spells. The only problem is that, like, when you use a spell, the hunger is not going to go away necessarily. Although maybe it should. If it does, when he casts a spell, then we sort of lose that. We lose that nice natural back and forth of sword gets hungry, slice something, you get the bonus damage, and then it goes away again. We've unlinked those things by moving it to spell casting, so I don't love that idea. You can get a little convoluted with it and say that the sword's hunger can be satiated by spellcasting. So um, as long as it's necrotic damage, it then actually this is cool. So if he casts a necrotic spell, which I think he has a bunch of, um, that necrotic damage gets boosted by the sword, and then the sword gets satiated because that life essence came back into it. And a lot of times that's what necromancy is represented as: is I'm taking life essence from one place and putting it in another. Um, so I mean, I think even healing spells are necromancy spells, right? In theory, there's no like healing school. Let's go look at cleric spells, everybody. Let's go see what kind of stuff we can mess with, because this sounds cool. It does take away a little bit of the um he has to use this item as a sword or a battle axe and hit something with it. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it doesn't have to be this way. A lot of times with these kinds of creative endeavors, we get hung up on ideas that we don't need to. Like, there's nothing about him having to use it as an actual weapon that has anything to do with his character, and it's just something that I thought would be a cool objective, um, that I should be able to let go of easily. And sometimes you have to remind yourself, oh wait, think about what's important, think about what this is for, and when I think about the most important thing, which is just provide delight to this player, him having to use it as a sword has nothing to do with that. So let's just jettison that idea, and if it works better like this, let's just do it like this. So we'll go to cleric spells, and I'm going to erase. Oh, well, used. So it adds extra damage to, or when it's charged. When it is charged, aka hungry, it adds extra damage to necromancy spells. And now there's a nice symmetry to the item as well. It'll help necromancy spells when it's cursed, and it can then also start helping healing spells when it's not cursed anymore. And I think this item prep is going to go into another session, and we'll have to revisit it just because there's a whole like side quest and character that we have to invent for this item, aside from the mechanical properties of it. And I'm all about that. I mean, the more interesting and complex these items are, the more they just enhance the campaign, as opposed to just being here's a cool weapon, I guess, and go enjoy that. Like let's have it punch up the narrative and the story, and give him something really interesting to deal with. So I'm gonna just put another like header here, which is to-dos. You can tell that all of my Notion D&D prep has to-dos all over it, because I often leave things unfinished, just because of time constraints, and some things just fall off. So this one is figure out the personality, the voice, and potentially the appearance of the curse. Not just that, but also what it is, the true nature, personality, the voice, the appearance of the curse. Cool. I mean, it's got to be tied to our side quest, right? Figure out, and I think we should do this one first, because it might help us understand what this curse is. Figure out side adventure required to remove the curse from the item. And then I think there has to be an incentive to remove the curse. Aside from, man, this voice is really annoying. It's got to be figure out the downside to using the item while it is cursed. Whew, man, I'm running out of steam here. But this is the great thing about streaming, is that I've committed to streaming for 2 hours and to being creative for 2 hours, and it's honestly mentally taxing to be creative for 2 hours, and I actually think that 2 hours is about the limit of any normal brainstorming session. I've never been super productive after that 2 hours, or it comes at sort of the cost of mental energy and mental health and stuff like that. So actually, the 3 hour stream that we did last week was a little bit too long. So I actually think 2 hours is a really, really good amount of time to be creative. No, this is Twitch, not Steam. That's something else I've learned recently. What? You're right. This is Twitch, not Steam. Did you mean to type that to me? You were right. Correct. This is Twitch. Welcome to Twitch. Um. Yeah. You're right. I did say that. Yeah. I don't know how to say that. Honestly, this is awkward now. I'm gonna get back to stuff. Okay, so wow, this is just gonna be me talking to my girlfriend in Twitch chat. I'm okay with that, frankly. I get to spend time with her even when I'm spending time with the internet, which is great. But the other 3 viewers that are around, they have to hear this. So let's not subject them to too much torture here. Especially not your dad jokes because they're terrible. Don't hurt me later. Okay, so all of this is to do. All right. So we were looking at spells, and we wanted to look at what. First of all, I was just curious. Healing spells, spare the dying, necromancy. What are some other healing spells? Cure wounds, evocation. That's interesting. It's interesting that some spells that are healing, look, it even says healing, are necromancy and some are evocation. What about? I'm definitely seeing a lot of damaging necromancy spells here. And I wish we had V Prasad back because he's a necromancy expert. He actually plays in one of my campaigns, not this one, but a different one. And he plays a necromancy wizard. So he knows a lot about that school of magic. Gentle repose, not exactly healing, but prayer of healing, evocation. Okay, so it looks like straight up healing spells are not necromancy. That's fine. I was just curious. But let's filter by necromancy. God, I love D&D Beyond. This is so handy. Filter by so many things. Okay. Damn, that's a lot of necromancy spells. Especially considering that clerics have access to all of their spells at once. I don't have to go find a spell scroll to learn them. He's got all of these. He just has to prepare them. Wow. Well, this is great. Life transference. You sacrifice some of your health to mend another creature's injuries. You take 48 necromantic damage. Oh, that would be funny if, it increases necromantic damage. So in this case, it would affect him more. That's a potential downside. Because actually, that's true. Necromancy, like I said, has that dual nature. It sometimes gives damage to someone else, and takes health for you. I'm saying this in a really backwards way. Sometimes it will take life from someone else and give it to you. And other times, like in this spell, it takes life from you and gives it to someone else. And that's the sort of dual nature of necromancy. Whereas something more like evocation is a lot more one-sided. I cast fireball. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm going to go hurt someone else. And I think that is a subtle downside to something like this. So let's put under magical properties, cursed side effects. The sword increases all necromantic damage dealt, even in the case of spells like life transference. It's so cool that we just randomly stumbled upon that and we found a very, very cool side effect of the rules. I love that kind of stuff because to me in game design, I don't know if it's emergent. It kind of is though, right? It's game design that takes on a life of its own because as it interacts with other game systems or other rules, it interacts with them in really interesting ways that you couldn't have predicted before. And so we predicted it here by pure chance, But it's likely that this would have just come up during a session, and I would have been like, wow, that's super cool. And I'm sure there's a lot of other things we haven't thought of. And the more complex of a rule set we build in this magic item, the more potential emergent behavior there is. That's actually not true. It doesn't mean just because you have a more complex rule set in game design doesn't mean you're going to have more emergent behavior. You can have very emergent behavior with a very simple set of rules, but it just sort of increases the surface area in which you might interact with a different rule. Doesn't mean it's going to be interesting necessarily, but it's there. So even in the case of spells that take life energy from the caster, super cool. And then like just a more basic spell. This is melee. Make a melee spell attack against a creature you can reach on a hit. The target takes 3d10 necrotic damage. So it becomes 3d10 plus 5d4. Now that's significant. So 3d10, the average would be. Where was our website? How is it not in here? I really don't understand Chrome sometimes. Like, we just had it open. God, here it is. Okay. So 3d10, the average is 16.5. That almost doubles the damage of this spell, which is pretty cool. Now, this is a first level spell. Frankly, 3d10 for a first level spell is a little bonkers. When you cast a spell using a spell slot of second level or higher, the damage increases by 1d10. So I think he's got 7th level slots at this point, which means that he would cast this maybe on average at like a 5th level. And that is 3d10 plus 2nd level, 3rd level, 4th level, 5th level. So that's plus 4d10. So that's 7d10, which is a very different number than what we said before. Roll it. Hello. You know, actually, I've been to this site before. It has problems in Chrome. Let's refresh it before it explodes my computer. Uh-oh. It's about to do it. New tab. Okay, there we go. 7d10. Uh-oh. Speech ball on you guys. The world's about to end. Game over, man. Come on. What is this, like a really shitty script? What the flip? D10. 7. Oh, my lord. The one website we found that actually does dice averages doesn't work. What about Safari? Now we're doing tech support on the stream. 10 minutes left. This is garbage. Come on. Why don't you work? Free tool that someone made out of the kindness of their heart and doesn't get paid to support? Sheesh. So privileged. Nope. Script is just bad. Doesn't work here either. Ay, you guys. I thought I saw. Oh, God, it just did it. Frick. Maybe it just takes its time. We're just going to let it think. Maybe it takes a long time because it's actually rolling 70-10 like 100,000 times to get the average. So it's not a calculated average. It's an actual measured average. Look at that. It took forever. That's crazy. All right, so the average is 38.50. So if we add on an average of 12.5 to that, that's pretty good. I mean, 12.5 divided by 38.5, that's a 30% increase in damage every once in a while. That's not bad. I think I'm going to make it 6. I'm going to make it something more like... Spells always have... unless you're like Magic Missile or something, spells usually have like a D10 or a D6 as damage. I don't know if there's a reason for that, but it does make it a little bit easier to think about the balance of the item if we keep it in the same units relatively. So another easier way to think about this is, I mean, let's look at the other ones, right? What are some other... Do they all just use D10? What's the typical scenario here? Contagion. It's not even a damage dealing spell. Harm. 14d6. Yeah, see, it's always d6 or d10. I thought that he had Blight. I guess I was wrong. The only damage dealing spells I see here. What if it's not even a necromancy spell? What if the type of damage is necrotic? Does that open up some options here? Okay, well, that's a lot more defining. So, Toll the Dead, you take 1d12 necrotic damage, or in the case of this player, because he is level 13, he will do 3d8 or 3d12. Why one or the other? Where does the d8 or d12 option come in? I'm just going to assume it's d12. So 3d12, in which case adding 5d4 would be impactful, but that's a d12. It's kind of unusual, but whatever. Inflict wounds is a d10. Life transference is a d8. Okay, so we have d8s in there as well. Quite a few. Spirit Guardians. Oh, he's good. So they would take radiant damage. Forbiddance, harm. Okay, so not as many as I was hoping. This kind of makes me question, with just 3 or 4 damage dealing spells in this class. The reason I question it is just because if there aren't that many necromancy spells that he can use, this is a lot more. Sacred Flame, Word of Radiance, Guiding Bolt, Spirit Guardians. Oh, man. I am tempted to, just because there's so many more Radiant or really any damage dealing spells that aren't, some damage type. Damage. Yeah, look, most of it's Radiant, Force, Fire. It's kind of all over the place, to be honest. I'm tempted to just allow it to increase his spell damage. I think we should just do that. So it increases all damage dealt, even in the case of spells that take life energy from the caster. That's fine. Extra damage to spells. And we're going to remove this. Cursed person. Well. Cursed personality. Divider. These two have less to do with personality and more mechanical. So we're going to put them in cursed side effects. / benefits. And so I think we should probably change this to something more reasonable. I think having, what's a Guiding Bolt? 46. So if he's at 5th level slot, it's going to be 8d6. So let's just add on like 3d6 damage, or max maybe 4d6 damage, right? Because what was our average for that? So let's say 4d6. The average is 14. Yeah, that sounds great. Let's just start with that. Oh, but it's a max. That's kind of lame. Come on, 5d6. 5d6 sounds cool. 8d12. Oh god, I'm sorry I did that. Oh man, for some reason it explodes with high numbers. It'll do it, but we just gotta wait. Stream's almost over. We're gonna stop at 9 o'clock PST, and we've done a lot of really good work so far. I just want to figure out this damage stuff, and then we can call it a night. Holy crap! We gotta stop that script. Let's do 5d8. 2250. That's better. 4d8. It's a nice round number. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do 4d8. So it gains a d8 every day, or maybe every 4 hours that it's not used. right? Grows by 1d8 to a maximum of 4d8. 1d8 every 6 hours to a maximum of 4d8. So 6 times 4 is 24. That means in a 24-hour period, if you go 24 hours since your last usage, you will have 48, right? Because if you use it at 0th hour, in another 4 hours, it'll be, sorry, another 6 hours, it'll be 1d8. Another 6 hours, it'll be 2d8. Another 6 hours, it'll be 3d8. That's 3 6-hour periods. And then the last one will be 48. So great. So every 24 hours, it reaches max damage again. Awesome. Ooh. Okay, so I think the downside to using the item while it's cursed probably has to do with not using the sword enough. Oh, not the sword. The item enough, and the cursed being getting hungrier and more upset, probably. Cool. So that's about the end of our stream. This item is not done or presentable, but it is very cool. I like that it it fits in with his like gluttony, the gluttony part of his personality. I like that it fits in with his healing. And I like that it is a weapon that is useful, which is cool. Now the other thing that I want to do the other thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that this item can only be used by kelp, either in a forced way. Some items do this. They just say you have to be attuned by a sorcerer, a wizard, or a cleric, or something like that. Or preferably in a natural way, so that they, I don't think there's anything wrong with being like, this is definitely a cleric item, but I think it would be nice if it just felt like, oh, this is an item for kelp. And I think the more we can make it feel like it's in tune with his theme, the more the players will catch on to that idea that this is for kelp. They're not going to know about the hunger thing initially, so we might want to inject a little bit more theme in it before we close the item out, so that it naturally has a leaning towards kelp. And I think that'll really come into the whole light thing and the whole goddess of beauty thing. So let's see. We'll just write that note down. One way to achieve this is to lean into theming even more, aka Sune or light, etc. Or, yeah, that's fine. Great. So that's it to 9 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for being on this journey with me and creating with me and collaborating with me. I really appreciate you being here. I know it's a small channel and we're starting, but it's a great learning experience for me. I have a lot of fun. My D&D campaign moves forward, and I hope that you guys also have a good time listening, lurking, participating when you can. And I hope that everybody sort of gets a taste for what it's like to be creative with someone else, or at least for now, hearing what a creative process looks like, so that maybe in the future you can participate as well. So just to reiterate the ethos, I really want people to come here and be creative and collaborative with each other and myself. I want them to sort of feel what that experience is like. I'm going to keep trying to test that hypothesis because I believe that people will really enjoy that once they get into it. And I've really enjoyed the interactions so far with everybody that's been on the stream. So if you came to just check it out, thank you so much. If you came to just say hi, thank you so much. If you came to give some ideas, thank you so much. If you came to lurk, I appreciate that as well. The next stream is going to be on Thursday at 12 o'clock PST, sort of a lunch break type situation. Tomorrow, I won't be streaming the game because I never do, but I will be playing this game, so it'll be exciting to see how things develop. And I will recap for you on Thursday, and then we can spend about an hour and a half prepping for the session after that. So come join me on Thursday at 12 o'clock PST. I'm going to see if I can get some other stuff done for the Twitch stream in the meantime and boost it up a bit. Maybe we'll have background music then. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, good night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time on Let's Prep D&D. Tentative name. We'll see.